Good morning and welcome to Morning at 10 TV, and on this segment of Take Note today we'll be talking about defensive driving. And maybe you're just asking yourself, why defensive driving? So I'll give you a background. Just yesterday we saw an accident where a driver of a truck lost control and plunged into Karuma Falls at the bridge, and so he managed to escape, but the other occupant is still missing, and also the vehicle cannot be seen. And on Tuesday also, the youth MP for Northern Uganda, Mr. Oscar Omony, along the Kampala-Gulu highway also was in a head-on collision with a truck. And still, last week on Wednesday, we still had another case of a Root North MP, Charles Gutmoy, who was also involved in a car accident along the Karuma Bridge, still in the same area where we had yesterday's accident. And in early May, Buyanga East MP, Mr. Eric Musana, was also involved in a road accident along Mitiana-Kampala highway. Still, the numbers go on, and in January we still had another accident, and another legislator was involved in the same road carnage, and this was Agongo North MP, Mr. Latigo, and this happened along the Kampala-Gulu highway, and about 10 days ago, and this really hit the nation. 23 people died in an accident with Gaga bus, which got into a head-on collision with a cargo lorry and a tractor at the same time. This was along Kampala-Gulu highway. These are incidences that caught our eye as the media, so we can imagine how many more accidents are actually happening, and we really don't know about them. And actually, experts say that in this time we have bad weather, it's raining, the roads are slippery. If we do not take caution, then the numbers might actually increase. And in studio to discuss that and to just give us more in-depth information when it comes to defensive driving, we have Paul Kwamusi, who is a road safety consultant with Integrated Transport Systems Limited. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
Welcome to studio.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, the numbers are so appalling.
Yeah.
Day in, day out, you're
Yeah.
seeing accidents. What is defensive driving? I know you told me this is the only way out. This is the only savior for us as drivers on the roads. What is defensive driving?
Yeah. Maybe before I tell you what defensive driving is, let me just take a minute just to sympathize with all Ugandans and their families that are losing their loved ones due to what is happening on the roads. It is a very serious problem. Just to let you know, you're talking about Gaga bus,
Yes.
killed 22 people.
Yes.
But that's what we harvest every 2 days. 10 days, 10 people are dying every day. And what happens, the media gets the big numbers.
Yes.
But what happens is a very serious problem.
Correct.
But there's even a worry that this is just the beginning. It's going to worsen if we don't do much. And that's why defensive driving is one of the ways. But there are far many more things that we have to do to improve safety on the road. So defensive driving is a course that was developed after realizing that most crashes are not by learner drivers. Most crashes are by experienced drivers. And they realize that driving is about an attitude. I don't know whether you use public transport. If you use public transport, then you understand what I talk about.
Yes.
I don't know whether you rush to Kampala in the morning and you see what happens.
Yes.
I don't know whether you know that children, when you ask children, how does dad drive? Ah, my dad drives badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you ask, how your mom drive? She drives like my dad. So it's a very big problem. And we must do something about it. So the first thing we have to do in defensive driving is just to bring back the driver and tell him or her that the way you drive is, we need to account for it. We need to audit the way you drive on the road.
Yes.
Are you a good driver?
Yes.
That's the first thing.
So in essence, defensive driving is just driving on another scale, like when it comes to cautions.
Absolutely. It's just driving to avoid crashes and to make sure that you even are in preparations for the errors of other road users. I don't know whether you see in the city how riders ride.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you must be in position to make sure that you are ready to deal with the riders. Not dealing with them by knocking them off the road,
yes,
but trying to save their lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of defensive driving, and it's unfortunate that this is not taught in the basic driving schools, but we'll get to that later. The number one key when it comes to defensive driving, you've spoken about careless driving, but you also put into perspective that defensive driving is for you as a driver, driving expecting something bad to happen. So you're cognizant of that, and so you take cautions to just protect yourself as a driver. But for you as a consultant, what is the number one key aspect when it comes to defensive driving that every single road user, every single driver should know?
Thank you. The most single issue about all drivers on the road in defensive driving is attitude. Attitude. Are you respecting other road users? If you miss attitude, then you will not change behavior. And we have 5 pillars in defensive driving. The first one is the knowledge. Do you know that the vehicle you are driving is actually a bomb? You are carrying fuel, you are carrying the battery, and you are carrying the heat.
Yes.
So, when you make a mistake, this vehicle, this fuel will burn you up. Are you aware of that? So the level of knowledge, do you know when you speed, there is a speed that the road designers made. Once you exceed it, it's up to you. Do you know that those tires on the road, on your car, have speed limits? Now when you exceed them, then we leave you to God. So the level of knowledge is a very important issue in defensive driving. But maybe before I go to other pillars, there is a big problem in training drivers in this country.
Correct.
We completely have people who do not go into training. And unfortunately, they are the ones driving our public transport system. Our buses, if you investigate most buses, drivers, how they learned how to drive, they have never had any training. That means they missed a chance of identifying the risks on the road.
Yes.
They hardly know the road signs. They don't know. The engineer has told them that there's a bend there. Reduce speed and be ready to negotiate a corner.
Correct.
But for him or her, they don't do it. So training is a big problem. Actually, we as experts feel driver training is dysfunctional in this country. Yeah, that's the truth.
And maybe that will bring me to the next question. Why are we just having basic, substandard kind of training in our driving schools today? And why is in defensive driving put as a major aspect in these trainings? What's happening? Why aren't we embracing that? I know it's expensive, it's on another level, but why isn't it being embraced in all the driving schools? I've gone to a driving school, but it's now that I've just researched and with my engagements with you, fine, I've driven for quite a long time, and I'm cognizant of the risks on the roads and all that. But that came as me pushing myself harder to research and learn more. But I was not taught these tricks of defensive driving in school. I was just taught the basics. Why are we having this?
Now, that's a very big question.
Yes.
And I'll need more than 2 hours just to explain the problem. But seriously, we are in a crisis, safety crisis. We call it safety crisis. Because for safety, you mess up safety, safety messes up you up.
Correct.
Yeah, safety is hidden. The first thing is that over the years, we privatized most of the services in the transport sector. Now, when we privatized, we did not put in place strong regulations. I don't deny the regulations are there, but we do not go into the commitment to ensure that the regulations are in. Now, what happened was the standards went down of driving schools. The supervision reduced. Then the money motive came up. Then the driver testing system has loopholes. Then the driving permit acquisition has loopholes. Then the whole society, as you can see, we can bypass some issues.
Corruption.
Absolutely. But the regulation, the enforcement of the regulation became an issue. Now you find an instructor who has never been trained. Now I don't know, do you blame the learner or the instructor? We end up failing.
The institution, the school itself, yes.
So it's a system that really needs support. I don't blame the government, but we road users, you are with your family.
Yes.
You're going home to see your family, but you're doing 120 on a road that is designed for 60, 80 kilometers per hour. You are going over the limit. And as you've heard the president yesterday, he's saying that why do you go very fast? Very fast, the vehicle will kill you.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, we also are taking safety casually. You reach, you go. The tire is bad, but you continue. Then, as a society, we even have sectors that there's no training. Tractor driving. Is there a school, you know, training tractor drivers?
None at all.
Yeah. When you go to tractor dealers and you ask them, how long can I learn how to drive a tractor? 2 days.
Oh, wow.
3 days. So it's a big problem. But I just want us to go back to defensive driving. Defensive driving will come back to you as a driver.
Yes.
And you rightly said it, that you yourself, you took it upon yourself to say that, look here, I think I must take some steps as a driver to do what?
To research.
To research and become a safer driver.
Yes.
And that's what defensive driving is all about. It's an attitude issue.
It's an attitude issue. We are in a bad weather season.
Yeah.
It's raining, the roads are slippery. What should we look out for? What are these concepts in defensive driving that we can embrace as drivers, just to ensure that we're not involved in road accidents?
Thank you. Actually, for us, we have what we call changing driving conditions. Weather is one of them. Secondly, visibility in the night.
Yes.
Some companies, they don't allow their fleet to travel in the night. Visibility. You don't have enough data to drive along the road. You don't see everything. If you see the Gaga bus, did the driver intend to hit a tractor?
No.
Yeah. So that's why.
But that's another issue.
But
yes.
I'm just listing down, first of all. I told you I need a lot of time.
Yes, it's a big topic.
But weather is a very big player. I don't know whether you notice, all modes of transport are affected with the weather.
Yes.
I don't know whether I've ever flown, but the flights are cancelled. Railway systems, at times, they halt.
Yes.
But it's only the driver who will even overtake in bad weather. So what happens when it rains? The tire grip.
So check your tires.
Check your tires, but also check your braking system.
Correct.
Then, check your speed. The speeds must actually have, you must make sure that the speeds are low. You have less control over the machine. And once you have less control, then you have more trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's very important that you make sure that in bad weather, you drive slowly because you don't see the potholes. The potholes are covered
with water.
With water. So you are like swimming. You are like somebody who is floating.
Yes.
Yeah. So briefly, that's what happens. But what happens even more worrying is that during the dry season or the dry weather, oils, there's leakage from trucks and vehicles. Now, when it starts raining, this oil comes back. And you know oil being slippery.
Yes.
So it makes the road even more slippery.
I totally agree with you. And still, let's look at it this way. I am a person who has researched on defensive driving, and I know when it's raining, I need to check my speed, my tires are okay, my car is serviced, and all these other factors. Then what should I be cognizant of when I'm on the road? because I know, for example, if I'm driving, I've seen
Mm.
people who are careless on the road, and I come to work very early in the morning, and I have no control over that because it's always dark, but I take my cautionary measures. What should I do, or what should the person watching us do when, for them, they're all careful and they're all cautious? What should they do when they have another road user with them on the same road who is careless in this bad weather?
Thank you. We defensive drivers, first of all, we pass you through a number of modules. The first module is, do you know how bad it is? Do you know how bad the crash is? Now, after understanding that one, then we start a topic that talks about hearts and minds. Do you care about that road user? Do you know that that road user is vulnerable?
Correct.
Look at a boda rider riding in the night without lights.
Yes.
You have seen that mistake, but you continue again creating trouble for that person. Yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in poor weather or in poor visibility, the first thing the driver should do is to understand that is the one controlling everything on the road.
Okay.
You control all other road users. We have the vulnerable road users. Unless you make them safe, they will die. They are so vulnerable. I don't know whether I've ever used a boda. Anything.
Yes.
Even a Moise cob is enough to put you down.
True.
Yeah. So the first thing we tell you that, are you knowledgeable? Are you identifying the risk? Are you not the problem? You might blame the other, but you might be the problem. Secondly, there are road users who continue making mistakes despite being vulnerable. They continue making mistakes. And those are the reckless drivers on the road, reckless riders. But also, there are pedestrians who cross the road anyhowly. And it does like this, please stop, I'm passing.
Now, what should you do as a defensive driver?
What should you do about the defensive driver is observation.
Okay.
Are you observant? Are you seeing? Are you seeing? Are you identifying the potential hazards? Are you seeing what is the hazard? We are having problems as a country. Elephants and big animals are being killed by drivers.
Yes.
But also the accidents are killing the drivers. I don't know who is to blame. Remember, we are getting some work for TweDeco and NTV.
Yes.
I asked this driver, what do we do about these elephants? He said, I think elephants should have reflector jackets. I said, oh my God.
How can they have reflector jackets and the boda drivers themselves? They
now
don't have
look at the
jackets.
way he's blaming the other animal and not himself. And that's the biggest problem I have with drivers.
Yes.
Then, if you have identified the hazard, make a decision of what to do.
Okay.
Maybe the problem is just to reduce the speed.
So think fast.
Think fast. Think fast.
Okay.
And then you act.
Okay.
So that's just like the whatever, the basis. But there are three main issues. Yourself, other road users, or the adverse conditions. Adverse conditions, there's nothing much you can do about it. Be careful. On our highways, we have heavy trucks without lights.
Correct.
Without lights.
So does it mean we drive with our headlights on throughout?
If you are not able to see, don't exceed your lights.
Okay.
Don't, because they are broken down trucks. And you hit a truck, you are dead. You hit a truck, you're dead.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
As we come to a close, speak to us about the importance of safety belts.
Thank you.
This is something that we all take for granted as we come to a close. This is something we take for granted.
But maybe before I talk about seatbelts, I
Okay.
just wanted those pillars that I talked about.
Okay.
I just gave you one, knowledge.
Yes.
Secondly, alertness.
Yes.
We have a problem of phones. We have a problem of distraction. So we want, the second pillar is
Avoiding
alertness,
distractions.
avoiding distraction.
Correct.
Thirdly, the foresight. Are you reading the road? Are you able to? For instance, I get very upset by bus drivers. He's reaching a trading center. Instead of reducing speed, he puts on the horn. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah. At times, by the time you try to brake, it's too late. Fourthly, the judgment. What's your judgment in driving? Driving is about judgment.
Correct.
Every accident you see is a misjudgment. There is somebody who did an error.
Okay.
Then lastly, what's your skill? So back to the seat belt. Seat belt is the best safety system we have in a car.
Correct.
We have a problem that people say the seat belt passes near the heart, so I can't use it, I'll get high blood pressure,
Yes.
or something like that. But use your seat belt. We have too much evidence in this country to show that without a seat belt, you're gone. You will be thrown out of the vehicle.
Thrown out of the vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're not supposed to die, if you don't have a seatbelt, you actually end up dying, and that could have been controlled. The impact could have been controlled by the seatbelt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in studio. We'll have to have you back again. There's a lot that we need to cover.
There's a lot.
There's a lot we need to cover on defensive driving, and just have a classroom, so to speak, to just dissect every single aspect and just educate our viewers about defensive driving. But take it upon yourself. Go. Nowadays, the internet is our mini school. Google about defensive driving. Get to learn a few tips about how you can take caution when you're on the road. It doesn't matter whether you're a pedestrian, a driver, a passenger, all these other aspects. It starts with me and you. Let's take care when we are on the roads. And that has been the discussion for today. We hope that you've learnt a thing or two. My name is Malaki Vilodera. Be sure to tune in tomorrow, same time, same place. We will be back with another educative topic just to inform you and make sure that you live a better life. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.